My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll see with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Gallop Out. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson. As usual, get to be joined by my co-host, Jackson Muniz. Jackson, how's it going? I love seeing Mixto every time this intro goes, but with Rank running soon at Turfway, we might have a change coming.
Yeah, we may have to make our first trip out to Turfway too. If he's actually going to run out there, I've been waiting for an excuse to go to Turfway Park. I'm going to probably be miserable there when it's 20 degrees, but if Rank finds the winter circle and we're not there, I'm going to feel horrible about it. So
yeah, we cannot miss his maiden breaking performance after how big of fans we've been of his really since the start. So we really just got to hope that continues and he takes to the synthetic over there. We'll make it out there. We probably owe Tony Kalo a beer or two anyway for the amount of appearances he's done with us. And he's coming on next week, but we'll get to that a little bit later. For this week, we're previewing the Gr2 Remsen and the Gr2 Cigar Mile from Aqueduct. Excellent 11 race program going on out there on Saturday. Always, or of course, they are on the dirt. But Jackson, we have a guest to join us. We might have a second one, as you can see in the description. Nick Tammaro running a little bit late, coming out of a meeting. Adults are adults. We have lives and obligations. So if he's able to make it, we will have him on when he's able. But joining us for the duration of the show, we just had him on for the Breeders' Cup. We've had him on a few times, Jackson, but always love talking to this guy. Is Andy Serling. Andy, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you guys.
It's good to see you too. Sorry?
I said, as always.
As always. I understand you're heading down to Jamaica in the Caribbean later this week for Mutet Mile Day.
It's definitely not Jamaica and Queens. I
Yeah,
spent a lot of time there too, so I might as well be able to get to go to one of the Caribbean occasionally.
probably a little warmer, I would think.
Making my third trip down there. It'll be fun. Looking forward to going. Maggie's coming this year. Got a different. Nice. I've managed to annoy whoever came with me apparently every year, so a different person has to go every year. But I don't seem to have annoyed them enough down there that they don't keep asking me to come back.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you must be doing something right down there because
we'll see. I don't know. I'm trying to swear on the air this year. I'll try to make it special.
There we go. Well, you heard it here first, but
who knows? Tune in.
Who knows? They got to run the race first, and then we'll find out what we get from you this year. But Mutet Mile Day also falls on Cigar Mile Day. Last year's winner was locked, and then this year we have a pretty competitive field. I expected to see Rated by Merit in here. I didn't hear a story as to why he's not running, but Jackson, I think that's what you and I kind of spoke about a little earlier in the week.
I think he wasn't happy with the way he worked on Sunday, was what Chad said in the quote. So
yeah, I didn't ask him. Somebody said he had a minor issue or something. I don't know. Horses that run every 6 months don't feel like they ever have minor issues, or else they've just got so many minor issues. But yeah, it took me a while to figure out that somebody was missing from the race when I was looking at it.
Yeah, that was the one name Jackson floated a little earlier in the week, so that was the kind of one I was expecting to see. And then, of course, the overnight came out and they weren't on there, but it's still an excellent competitive card there. We also have the Gr2 Remsen going as race number 9, going 9 furlongs for the 2-year-olds. That's a really intriguing race. And then we're going to touch on the $500,000 New York Stallion Series for the boys at the end as well. But we'll get into the first of the 3 races we're going to talk about. It's going to be race number 9, the Gr2 Remsen for the 2-year-olds. Got a good field here going. I want to start the conversation with 2 horses that are coming out of the same race, and I'll show the replay as I throw it out to you, Andy. But Paladin and Renegade are coming out of the same race. Renegade finished in front, but they made the DQ. Regardless of whether or not you agree with the DQ, they both kind of ran the same race. Would you be looking to take one of these horses out of that or possibly look elsewhere?
Well, I mean, I think that both of them obviously can win. I think I prefer Paladin simply because he drew considerably better. And I also prefer the fact that he was, involved in the pace the whole way as opposed to Renegade, who had a sort of a little bit softer trip. I'm not, I don't think that there's some extreme difference between them. And as you say, it doesn't matter if you feel disqualification was merited or not. They hit the wire together. So I'd probably be more inclined to take Paladin. I think the question is, what price does he end up? And, are there other contenders that you want to play that are better priced? You think they should be? Because I don't think Paladin has to win. He's 3-1 in David's line. I got a feeling he's going to be 9-5. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. We saw this duo of Pratt and Chad Brown come out west over the weekend. They were 7-2 on the morning line. They went off, I want to say, 6-5, 7-5 in the matriarch. Of course, they won that race by open legs. But yeah, they're just going to take money kind of by default. Jackson, did you have any thoughts on Renegade and Paladin coming out of that maiden race together?
No, I agree with you guys. Paladin, I thought he'd be about 2-1. So I think he'll take money from this spot. I don't really think I want to bet him at that price, but I'm really curious to see how he runs in here, because that was a really impressive debut. He was always a part of the pace. He was between horses. Renegade got a great trip and tried to run him down, and I guess he did technically, but Paladin also galloped out in front of him past the wire. So I think this horse is really going to improve second time out. Pedigree says he's got a lot more distance. He's just a really intriguing prospect. So I'm excited to see how he runs in here.
Yeah, they could both. They're both eligible to take a step forward. Certainly, you mentioned the Gallop Out and after the race for Paladin on the debut. Aside from those two who come in with the leading buyer of 87 apiece, I guess the next logical one, especially when referring to the morning line, also at 5-1, would be Talkin' for Danny Gargan, who's having a solid meet, 3 for 3 from his sample size of runners. Is this one, Andy, that you think could stretch out around 2 turns successfully for this next try?
No, he's a good magic from a Tisnow dam. So I don't really think distance is supposed to be a problem for him. I just don't like him. He's one of the big five, right? The five major players in this race. My feeling is, though, he's gotten incredibly good trips in both his starts. I'm not suggesting he hasn't run well, because he has run reasonably well. But, he got an incredible pace scenario sitting inside, just off the pace against Stradali. And while Stradali's, sort of won out of that race and ran 30 today, he hasn't proved to be that good, right? He's running low 80s. So I wonder how good that was. And last time out, he ran fine, but he had a very good setup in that 7 wide upper. You watch the race. He moved on the rail and kind of moved in the 2 path. And you look at Universe, who I think ran a better race than he did that day. And Universe has come back with 2 slightly lower figures at Churchill Downs. So to me, Talkin' is a horse that's a little dressed up, drew badly, and is going to be a reasonably short price. So I didn't want any. He can win, but he's the one horse of the potential, the main players that I didn't want any part of.
Yeah, I don't entirely disagree with you, Jackson. I want to get your thoughts. The runners that have come out of the Grade 1 Champagne so far have not exactly come back to wow us with those figures. Talkin' is another one that's going to be in here, and I'm kind of with Andy. I feel like it's probably between the 2 exiting the maiden race and maybe another long shot that we'll get to in a little bit. But what were your thoughts on Talkin'?
Yeah, he's fine. I think the post is the most concerning part for him. He's going to be hung out there. He's going to lose a lot of ground. And as Andy kind of mentioned, he got a really good trip in the Champagne, and someone had to get second behind Napoleon Solo. I don't know how good the rest of that field was. It just seemed like he got the best trip out of everyone else and was able to finish second. So, look, he's only run twice. He's still lightly raced. He could always improve. I agree, though. I think as far as alternatives, I would be looking at other horses.
I think there's 2 horses that, I think both Courting and Igniter are serious players in this race.
I would not disagree with that. Last performance from Courting really put things together in the second start and looked a lot more comfortable. And then, Igniter is another one certainly that could stretch. Does maybe the top end maybe both ends of the breeding worry you at all, or is you think 9 furlongs is no issue here?
Well, obviously Volatile is a little bit questionable getting a 1 1/8. He is a violence, though, even though he's a sprinter. Do you know that his dam was one of the big 3 and the Mother Goose behind? She was one of the 2 horses behind Rachel Alexandra.
I heard she was pretty good.
She actually was. Mark Trainer. Actually, Todd Trainer. Yeah, she won the Chaluki against older horses in the fall. But she actually, I think, did she finish second in that Rachel race? And Flashing was third, won 2 Grade 1s later in the year. So, she was okay, and she could go longer. So we'll see. I don't know. I think he's very dangerous in here. I thought his maiden race was better than it looks. Second horse, I know the third horse took a step back, but the second horse, a good looking Chad Brown horse. Actually thought he mimight run in here, Rebel Instinct. So I thought he was dangerous. I don't know. Jackson, you got any feeling on him?
Yeah, I like Igniter in here. I'll be betting him because it seems like he's going to be of the big five, at least the fourth best price, maybe the fifth best. I mean, Courtney's got to get back for those connections and the $5 million price tag. I mean, he's going to take some money here. And I like the maiden breaker. He was kind of pushing him the whole time. He was watching him around the turn, and Franco was already getting after him for half a mile, and he still was able to win. He also galloped out in front of Courting, who I think Courting wants to run 2 miles. If they made races for 2 miles, Courting would be perfectly happy with that. So I think he's going to run all day. He reminds me a little bit of oh my goodness, the Dutch horse that won the Withers this year, Captain Cook, where he ran a good maiden race first time out, and they stretched him out to mile and won, and then they won. They were going.
Oh yeah, Captain. I want to say Captain Obvious, Captain something, right?
Captain Cook. Very
yeah.
similar pattern. The third start was the first one going the 9 furlongs.
And he's really a sprinter too, as it turns out.
Yeah, it could be the same. For
the horse that should have won the Alan Jerkins at 20-1 that we bet on.
He did everything to win that
appreciate
race.
That. I think there's a chance that Courting's the second choice in this race.
Yeah.
Courting has, listen, with his $5 million purchase price, it's obviously is related to the pedigree, but that purchase price and Todd Pletcher, he's always going to get a lot of attention. And he's going to be one of these horses they're talking about forever, And as you say, if only we were still running the Belmont Stakes at Belmont, he'd already be everybody's Belmont horse. He did. I don't know if you're aware of this. He galloped out the mile. They actually worked him, I think, an eighth a mile after the race. And he went like 49 flat or 49-1. But I think people should be aware that's really a one-turn mile and an eighth. It's not the mile and eighth you see normally at Aqueduct because it's going to pull up right into the turn. So it's a very, very different race. And it's just hard. Even Johnny, and I thought, gave a really interesting interview with Maggie after the race where he was talking about how he's just a work in progress. Like he kind of knew he's not that fast. He's got a long way to go. And whether or not he's ready to take that next step forward in a race where there's some horses that are running fast races in here remains to be seen. I'm not going to be surprised when he runs reasonably well, but I also think he's going to be a real underlay. Because if he didn't have that purchase price, and even with a stronger distance pedigree, I don't think he'd be as short as he's going to be,
Well, and the last race was a bit of a joke. I mean, he was 1-10. It was a 4-horse field. The field was not good, and he just got the lead by default. Like, I don't know how much stock you want to put into that race. I think it's a question
whether or not you're willing to take a leap that he might, take another step forward, which he probably will. But I don't think any one of us wants to take 3-1 or 7-2 on that in this race because he's, figs aren't everything, but he's got to really get faster or hope a lot of horses don't run better. I mean, let me ask you a question. What would you rather take, whatever shortest price he is, or like a huge price if you're looking at tries or whatever on a horse like I Did, who took a step forward, made that big premature move last time, was wide the whole way around the track. And while I don't think he can win here, isn't he? To me, he's the only long shot that interested me at all.
Yeah, he was the one I was going to kind of shift the convo to next time. I did like the effort he just ran in the Street Sense a few weeks ago. I did think it was a step forward. And I like when Joel Rosario gets on a horse from off the pace. He's going to be able to get that run out of them as they come down the lane. And we can't ignore what a red hot meet Mike Maker has had at Aqueduct so far, 6 for 17. So his barn's been firing on all cylinders. So this is one I definitely gave a look to. I thought maybe had an outside chance to win if he takes another, dramatic improvement. And he's kind of just the fresh face in here versus a lot that have been running either against Maiden Company or a lot up in New York.
He's the pick for people that want to look like they're smart picking long shots, in my opinion. But he's really a horse you're supposed to put second or third if you really like him. You know what I mean? Because he's not that likely to win. I mean, what about day one starter? I mean, does anybody have any thoughts on him?
Jackson, I'll go to you. Any thoughts on the rail horse in day one starter?
I not really. I wasn't a fan. The race he won 2 back was kind of marred by the spill. The Chad Brown horse was kind of the rail, clipped heels and went down, and then the other Chad Brown horse flipped over him. I just wasn't sold on that effort. Like, it was kind of inconclusive. And then he came back in the stake race and he just was terrible. He didn't run at all. He got a good trip in there. It was really bad. But if he runs back that number 2 back, then yeah, why can't he be right there? And these 2-year-old horses, I think sometimes we have really too high of expectations for these 2-year-olds that we just expect them to be linear, their progression. It's not always the case. So at a big number, I don't want to talk anyone off of him, but it would have to be like 15 to 1, 20 to 1 time.
Yeah.
I agree. He'd need to be a relatively fair price, but I do think the work tab's a bit encouraging. I do like that 2-back. That's a pretty sharp work for a guy like Suge McGahee who doesn't really work his horses all that fast. So slowed it down in that next one. Maybe this horse is ready to rebound after maybe a bit of a bounce last time out in the Nashua Stakes. But I do think that there's probably, as you said, like the big 5 in here, but there's some others that could definitely step up. Day one starter. I did. Talking about maybe the pace scenario for a second, I would imagine Balboa is going to be one of the ones trying to lead them, all the way early. Jackson, what are your thoughts on the pace scenario here?
I mean, you would think that's his one shot, right? He's probably a sprinter. You got to go. Why else do you win this race if you're not going to send to the front? That's your best chance. So I don't think he's quite as good as some of these horses. I don't think he necessarily wants to go 9 furlongs, but speed's always dangerous. And if someone gets left alone, then yeah, he's got a shot.
But don't you feel like Paladin and Igniter are going to be close enough to him that that it would have to be some sort of bias or something to help carry him home, because they're just demonstratively better horses or more likely winners. And I'd be more concerned that the pace gets hot and it works against players like the 2 and 7, and that ends up helping a horse like the 6. I'd be a little more worried about that as a possibility if I was looking at the race, because I think one of the possibilities in here is the pace is at least fairly hot.
If the pace does get hot on the front end with horses like Igniter, Balboa, Paladin going at it early, other than I did, who's a horse that would really, be the beneficiary of if this thing completely fell apart late?
Courting. Completely falling apart? Well,
falling.
It's probably talking.
Grittiness. Well, Renegade also. Renegade might also be the one that would really benefit, right? He could probably just sit back and make a run, So I guess possibly. And I'm not wildly against Renegade. I just kind of prefer others.
Let me ask you this, Andy. If Paladin's 9 to 5 and Renegade's 5 to 1, who would you bet at those prices?
Igniter, but I bet Renegade. If somebody said to me, "You've got to bet one of them," I'd bet Renegade, because I don't think he should be 2.5 times the price and get a horse.
Right.
And I think it's a very, very, very good point on your part.
That's very fair. Competitive field in the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes going as race number 9.
Great race.
It is a fantastic rendition of the race. And then next up, we have race number 10. It's the Grade 2 Cigar Mile. Of course, the 1-turn mile. Your morning line favorite. Let me pull the picture again here. Sorry. Morning line favorite to the outside for Bishop's Bay. Probably should have remembered that one.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
Bishop's Bay 2 to 1.
I want to hear Jackson's opinion of Bishop's Bay.
I also want to hear Jackson's opinion on Bishop's Bay.
On Bishop's Bay?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how good Bishop's Bay is, but I think the key to this entire race is what does Flavian Pratt decide to do on this course? Because he's not as fast as Phileas Fogg. I think Phileas Fogg is quicker than him early on. But Pratt can't let that horse get away on the front end, right? Because if he does, Phileas Fogg is going to win this race. So I think Pratt has to be aggressive and put a lot of pressure on that horse. I think Pratt's going to look at the rest of the field and be like, who is my competition? I guess it's Crazy Mason, and that horse is going to be 15 lengths at the back. I think he's going to take his chances, be really, really aggressive, and hope that it kind of just turns into a match race between those two. I don't particularly like Bishop's Bay in this race. I still think Phileas Fogg is better. But in that scenario, maybe they cook each other a little bit. I guess I'm looking at Doc Sullivan in this spot. As a
I think
bit
it's
of
Phileas Fogg, by the way.
Say it again?
I think it's Phileas Fogg.
What did I say?
Phileas.
Oh, did I?
It's his brother. I think that's a really interesting point that, to be honest with you, I hadn't really considered. But I think it's a very fair point. I don't like Bishop's Bay. I think he is completely dressed up. I mean, I understand, this is not the strongest cigar by any stretch, but these horses are better than Nelson Avenue and even Scotland, who didn't really run it all in there. And, he won a race at 1 to 5 at Monmouth in the Slop, and he rode a gold rail to victory in that Westchester. While it was a decent field, I like Quinn Sprue, who unfortunately never ran back. I think he was really helped by the racetrack, and I just don't know if he's that good. I think Phileas Fogg is a much more likely winner than he is in this race. And so I think that's an interesting point, though. Does it set things up for Crazy Mason? And is there somebody else you want? You mentioned Doc Sullivan. Is he not necessarily better than Crazy Mason?
He could be, because Crazy Mason hasn't been nearly as good as his last couple of races, I didn't think. And we mentioned he's got no early speed. He's going to be 15 lengths out the back. And he's got to have a lot of ground to make up. Doc Sullivan's going to get the jump on those two horses for sure, or on Crazy Mason for sure. He could find himself in the right spot. The big concern for him is he's just clearly a little bit better on a wet track. Doesn't seem like he's going to get that this weekend. All his fast numbers have come on the wet track. So I do like that they bring him back, though, in 2 weeks. I have no problem with that. I take that as a sign of confidence. They're taking a shot. He's in really good form. And I think he could get the right trip. And, they've made him 5-1. I think that's more than a fair price in a race like this, where I really don't like Bishop's Bay. I respect the favorite. But other than that, I don't really fear anyone. So give me him at 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, do you think there's a possibility that a horse like Pentathlon is improving, and he's another one that could do it, because he's in a sort of similar tactical position to Doc Sullivan, right? Sitting off the pace a little bit and hoping it gets a little hotter. And I think Doc Sullivan's a little better than him, but I'm not sure how much. And I think Pentathlon could be an improving horse. And so I'm not sure I'd want to complete, if you go on the scenario that I think, they may hit each other a little bit, you don't like the outside horse, you don't feel like also taking a short price on Phileas Fogg, aren't any of the 1, 3, and 4 possible winners here? And maybe, you're playing multi-race bets. Maybe that's an approach somebody would want to take. I don't have a strong opinion in this race, but I think it's not the worst idea to say, I don't like the 7. I think he could compromise the 6. So I'll use the 1, 3, and 4 and hope for the best. Something like that. Just a thought.
Yeah, I don't hate that thought at all. The point on Pentathlon was a horse that I looked at pretty close, and I probably have this one as a B-ish right now. But if you think Doc Sullivan is best on the wet track, fast track efforts on Pentathlon and Doc Sullivan are pretty hard to split on that front. So, assuming we get a fast track this weekend, I like Pentathlon if they heat things up and, maybe Bishop's Bay gets used up too early. I'm also trying to beat that horse in this spot.
Yeah. My only concern with him is that the runbacks out of the most recent race have been pretty iffy. I think a lot of horses have taken a step back, like 6 or 7 points. So that concerned me a little bit, but there's no doubt he's going the right direction for sure.
Donegal Surge has improved. He improved 64 points, so I think he brings the average. That might. If you want to go by that stretch, but it's a fair point. Pentathlon is one of these horses that you kind of always thought could be okay. You see the Phipps horses, and you kind of want to root for them to do well in these big races. And I think it would be neat to see the Phippses, Phipps Silks win though it is running the Phipps Silks. In the winner's circle as we get ready to wind down the history of Aqueduct. They certainly won a lot of big races here.
Yes, they have. It would be cool to see that. Question for you guys. Obviously, a couple for Crazy Mason here. One, rider switch to Irad Ortiz, and your thoughts on that. But also, this has been mainly a 6 to 7 furlong type deep closing sprinter. Sometimes that stretch out when, you would think, okay, that gives them more time for that turn of foot. Sometimes it lessens the severity of it. Do you think, what do you think of the rider switch? And then what do you think of the extra distance on Saturday?
I think it's a valid question by the distance. And I know that he's done okay going longer around 2 turns, but that was earlier in his career. And he's a better horse, but maybe he's a better horse because they've turned him back, and I think that's a valid point. On the other hand, I think it depends on how you're looking to play this race, right? I wouldn't bet Crazy Mason in here. He's not really my kind of horse. I think Irad will be fine on him. Manny's been very patient with him and ridden him well, and I don't think any reason that Irad wouldn't. But I think there's 2 ways to look at it. Is he a horse you're picking and betting on, or is he just a horse you're using on the theory that I just want to be alive if this race falls apart, if the 6 and 7, and presumably the 2 would be part of that too, because it's hard to make brazenly. So and since the 6 and 7 are, both the overwhelming favorites, I think if you get any of the 3 home, you'll do fine if that's your approach. I wouldn't pick him on top, but I would want to use him if I'm taking that approach. The race can fall apart late.
That's a good analysis there. Jackson, same couple questions to you.
Yeah, I don't know if the rider switch matters that much. I mean, he's going to do his thing. He's going to drop out the back and come with his run. He's either going to get the pace and be good enough, or he's not. I mean, no, I don't know. If anything, it hurts the price that Irad's riding this horse. So I don't know if I love that. Yeah, I think if I was betting this race, I'd be betting the 1, and I'd rather have the 3 Pentathlon at a much better price than Crazy Mason. I kind of view them somewhat similarly in this race.
I agree with that. I'd rather have Pentathlon at a bigger price than Crazy Mason. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's fair there. Any other runners that you guys want to talk about in the Grade 2 cigar?
Well, I mean, Mika ran this sort of ridiculously good race last time, and he is kind of a funny horse if you take a broad view, right? He ran 4 times on turf, and obviously that was in retrospect, and I would say this to Mike, that turned out to be pretty dumb. And it's all because he didn't run well at 4.5 furlongs in his debut, right? I'm sure that Mike Maker would have no problem. If he were here and I said to him, he would laugh and say, "You're right, it's Captain Obvious." And, and then suddenly he's off the turf and he runs that. I mean, he did run this crazy fast race last time. It's not a horse I want to bet on, but, is it really insane to think he's a 3-year-old getting better? He ran this big race. I looked it up. I didn't look like a real bias to me. I mean, that was a fast race. And, maybe we're kidding ourselves. And, maybe he's not ridiculous in this spot. I don't know. It's not my kind of horse, but is there a possibility that he's just been in the wrong races his whole career?
Yeah, Jackson, what are your thoughts? I mean, he gets in at 114. That's co-lightest in the field with Brazenly. I don't know how much weight you put into that, only going the 1-turn mile that this race will be configured at. But that's at least a positive in your corner if you do back a horse like Mika.
No, again, speed is always dangerous. So if Rosario decides that he does not worry about this horse and they let this horse leave him by himself, I mean, he just ran a 95 buyer, and I'm not so sure 95 isn't going to necessarily win this thing. I mean, it
certainly makes it competitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I agree with Andy. I'm not picking him in here, but like it wouldn't be a giant upset, I don't think, if he won this race.
I think his PPs are deceptive when you first look at him. You think, oh, geez, that race just came out of nowhere. Brittany Russell got him. And I don't know, maybe he's a dirt horse just running all the wrong races his whole career. So I don't know.
Very well could have been the case.
Yeah. Certainly wasn't a turf horse.
Yeah, certainly was not a turf horse. But back in the barn with Mike Maker for this Saturday's Cigar Mile. We'll go on now to the finale on Saturday's card, going as race number 11. I mean, this race gets no easier. It's the 2-year-old state-bred New York Stallion Series for $500,000, going 7 furlongs on the main track. This race probably either you love Parker Boone's debut or you don't. I mean, where else would you kind of look towards to go for in a race like this?
See, I wouldn't be betting against Parker Boone in here. I think the only question for me, at least, would be in multi-race bets, do I want to have backups? Excuse me, and who would they be? Because, I mean, that was a legitimately good race, I don't see anything not to believe that this horse just is going to the front and towers over these.
I would tend to agree on looking through the past performances. Seems like speed of the speed off that debut, and it was a very strong one, even though it came at Parks. Jackson, what do you make of that, or the chances for Parker Boone? Did you look to anyone else?
No, he's definitely the one that caught my eye. And, usually I think I want to be a little cautious with Parks form, but Butch Reed is the one exception. I mean, he comes to Aqueduct all the time and does really well in stakes races, especially when his horses are bet. I think I looked it up. So he's like, I probably should wrote it down, but he's like 5 for 14 or something when his horses are less than 10-1 in stakes races at Aqueduct. So he's very, very live. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of speed in here. And if he runs back to that last number, he's probably going to win. I mean, it's really as simple as that. So we don't have the morning line yet. I don't know what kind of price you're going to get on him, but there's no doubt this horse has plenty of ability.
Feels like a pretty heavy favorite. I mean, I'm no Fruitian fan. I've never liked this horse. I think, it's interesting because in some ways what's going to happen is it's horses that are running the turf that are going to take money, right? I mean, the second choice, co-favorite, however you want to look at it, especially with Irad, is going to be Spirit of New York. Now, there's a little bit of dirt and he is an honest mischief, but not a horse that I'm dying to bet on, though I guess he could win.
I watched the most recent replay of him, and he gets room in the stretch, and I'm watching the replay. I'm like, how does he not win this race? And then they keep going, and then I realize he doesn't even hit the board. I mean, he got a perfect trip and a perfect ride in that spot. that worried me a little bit. I guess the cutback's supposed to be good for him, but he also has to deal with the dirt for the first time. That's going to be a question mark as well.
Yeah, I actually think the turf horse that I'd be more inclined to use at a price would be True Legend, who's a maiden, because if you look at his pedigree, it's actually kind of dirt, Second Dam, Honest Mischief. He's been effective on the dirt, but right. Look at the Second Dam, how good she was. You just had it up for a second. She was a really nice dirt horse. So I'd be inclined to want to throw that horse in because, like I said, if Fruitian wins, I'm going to lose. They can bet Chummers with Pratt, but I couldn't bet him with the one dirt race. I guess Combat Mission, the maiden's been a dirt horse, but he's not very good. I'm not sure where else I'm supposed to go in this race, So I would probably use Parker Boone and a little True Legend would be my feelings in here for multis.
Yeah, it feels like certainly of the three races that we've gone over, maybe even of the pick 5, pick 6 sequence, Parker Boone is going to be a heavy lean for a lot of players in there. Jackson, would you agree? And if you're playing anything vertically here, who would you maybe use underneath to spice things up?
Yeah, both horizontally first, I would press that Parker Boone for sure. He seems like the speed of the speed and the most likely winner. But with a lot of the horses that I expect to take money, I think most of them are also kind of speedy-ish. So if I'm playing backups, I would look towards some deeper closers. I went to the 9 and 10. Sunday Boy would need a complete pace collapse, but he was going the right way. He's a little interesting. He's got to be like 20 to 1 in here. So I would use him as a bomb. And then Dingy Bar 2 as well. Just a horse that keeps closing. Might be a little bit better with more ground. Another one that could improve on the dirt. Again, those are more backups, more underneath types, but I think they're both going to be big prices. And I don't think it's impossible that this race collapses a little bit.
Yeah, the 7 furlongs, they could certainly go too fast, too soon. It could...
7 furlongs, 14 horse field. I mean, that's the recipe for some fast pace.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Sioux's only run once. Who knows? But I was very impressed by that horse's performance. I think it was actually better than the 77 buyer, which could really put me in trouble.
And then to see Butch Reed ship in here, and Jackson, you mentioned the stats on him and how he does when he ships to Aqueduct, but he does it with a purpose. He doesn't just do it to give him a run over the track.
Well, I mean, he wanted to get this horse to run when he did because he wanted to run in this race, $500,000, and he's got a New York Stallion in Salamini. So this is the race he's wanted to win with this horse for a year. Honestly, since they bought this horse, right? Since May, they bought this horse. Right. They probably thought in mind, if this horse can run, this is a race to get to. And it took them a little longer than they probably wanted, but they wanted to make sure to get a race to get here,
Mm-hmm. I was just going to add that I'm a big Timeform fan. I think Timeform had it like 109, which is about an 89 buyer equivalent. That's a lot faster. So if you want to split the difference, that's still faster than everyone else in this race. So he's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, is going to be tough to beat. It's a fun sequence going over those 3 races to close out the day. The rest of the card gets no easier. Andy, thank you for joining us to go through those 3 races. Sadly, it looks like Nick Tammaro won't be able to join us today, but we'll have him on another day, I'm sure.
You can badmouth him since he didn't show up if you want.
I have no bad things to say, but I'll turn that to you if you have something to get off your chest. But
the overall IQ of the show would have gone up greatly if Nick had been here. So
that I wouldn't disagree with. I think not the last time, but 2 times before, the 3 of us all sat here and smiled as we picked Magnitude to win the Travers. So
now I picked them too. So
me
too. Yeah,
the 3 of us. Yeah, no, we.
I liked them in Churchill. That counts.
That counts.
Are we done?
We're just about wrapped up. Yes. Just want to wish you happy travels down to Jamaica and the Caribbean for Mutet Mile Day. Hope you enjoy vacation out there too, and spend some time by the beach.
Thanks. Well, I'll be sitting by the pool on Friday, and I'm not working again until when I get back until New Year's. So, but I'll be around here, and feel free to give me a call.
Definitely will do. Thank you guys for watching. I've been your host, Ryan. That's Jackson Muniz. We'll see you in a couple hours over on HHH Racing for Turfway Park's opening card. So that'll be fun. Yeah. But for today, Andy, thanks again for joining us. Safe trips down to Jamaica. This has been the Gallop Out, and we will see you guys later.